I don't know why I agreed to come here. Maybe it was the promise of peace, a weekend away from the noise of the city. The cabin sat deep in the woods, miles from the nearest road, nestled in a clearing surrounded by towering pines. The smell of pine needles and wet earth was intoxicating at first, but now, hours later, it feels oppressive. It started with the whispers. At first, I thought it was the wind. The way it slithered through the trees, hissing and curling like a serpent. But the wind doesn't speak. I was alone, at least, I thought I was. It was late afternoon when I first heard it. A faint voice, just at the edge of my hearing, impossible to make out but unmistakably human. I froze, straining to hear more, but it was gone as quickly as it came. The rational part of me chalked it up to my imagination. Maybe I was just tired from the long drive, but deep down, something in my gut twisted with unease. I walked around the clearing, trying to shake the feeling, but the woods felt wrong. Silent. There were no birds, no rustling animals, nothing. Just the constant, gnawing silence, interrupted only by the occasional whisper that seemed to drift through the trees. By nightfall, the unease had grown into a knot of fear. I locked the cabin door, even though I knew there was no one for miles. The darkness outside was thick, almost suffocating. I could barely see the outlines of the trees through the windows, just dark shapes looming like shadows. Every so often, I'd catch a flicker of movement between them, a flash of white, something darting between the trunks. I told myself it was an animal. It had to be. I lit a fire, hoping the warmth would drive away the cold that had settled into my bones. The flames cast long shadows across the room, flickering and dancing on the wooden walls. But the whispers, they were louder now. Closer. I couldn't ignore them anymore. I stood by the window, staring into the night, my breath fogging the glass. That's when I saw her. At first, she was just a figure at the edge of the trees. A pale silhouette standing impossibly still. My heart pounded in my chest as I squinted into the darkness, trying to make out her face, but the firelight cast strange reflections on the glass, distorting her features. She stepped closer, moving with an unnatural grace, her long hair flowing behind her like a dark veil. As she neared the cabin, I realized with a jolt of horror that her feet weren't touching the ground. She floated, just above the earth, gliding silently toward me. I stumbled back from the window, heart racing. I didn't know what I had seen, but every instinct screamed at me to stay inside. I backed away, staring at the door, half expecting it to burst open at any moment. The whispers now sounded like dozens of voices, all speaking at once, filling the cabin with a cacophony of incoherent murmurs. Suddenly, the door rattled. The handle twisted violently, as if something, or someone, was trying to force its way inside. I grabbed the fireplace poker, my hands shaking as I pressed my back against the wall, waiting. The whispers were deafening now, circling me like a storm. I could hear them clearer, my name, spoken softly, over and over again, beckoning me. Then, silence. I stood frozen for what felt like an eternity, the poker raised, my breath shallow and rapid. I don't know how long I stayed like that before I finally gathered the courage to approach the door. Slowly, I unlocked it and threw it open, ready to swing the iron rod at whatever was outside. Nothing. The clearing was empty. The trees stood still, unmoving in the cold night air. I stepped onto the porch, scanning the tree line for any sign of it. But she was gone. I thought maybe I was safe. Maybe whatever that thing was had decided to leave. But as I turned to go back inside, I noticed something on the ground, just at the edge of the porch steps. Footprints. Small, barefoot prints in the dirt, leading away from the cabin and into the woods. I should have left then. I should have grabbed my keys and driven away, but something compelled me to follow. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was madness. I don't know. All I knew was that I couldn't ignore the pull. I grabbed a flashlight and followed the trail into the trees, the beam of light barely cutting through the thick darkness. The prints were fresh, leading deeper and deeper into the forest, winding between the towering pines. That's when I heard the laughter. It was soft at first, like a child's giggle, distant and playful. I froze, scanning the darkness, but saw nothing. The laughter echoed through the trees, growing louder, more distorted, until it became a twisted, mocking sound that sent chills down my spine. I should have turned back. I should have run. But I didn't. The footprint stopped abruptly at the base of an ancient tree, its bark gnarled and twisted like some monstrous thing. And then I saw her again, standing just behind the tree, her pale face barely visible in the shadows. Her eyes were black, hollow voids, and her mouth twisted into a grotesque smile. She raised a hand and pointed behind me. I turned, and my flashlight flickered. The beam sputtered and died, plunging me into darkness. The last thing I heard before the world went black was the sound of my own name, whispered in the wind, followed by a cold, bone-chilling laugh. And then, nothing. I haven't been able to leave the woods since.